We've got 188 clients total in CRM. Like 70 of them have come from organic social. If somebody asks me, does it work? I'll just tell them, yes, it works, clearly. It worked for us, and that's what we now offer for our clients, is we've taken that formula and we do it for our clients, and it works for them.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to entry number 50 of the Creative Journal podcast. I'm so stoked to be talking to you guys today. And as always, say it every episode, but we have an incredible, awesome guest. And I'm not going to lie, as we close in on 1 year of the show, this is the most excited I have been to interview someone and release their episode. So without pushing it off too much, today's guest is Mr. Kevin Camus, founder of LaunchKit Design in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I've been following Kevin on social media for, almost a year. And he owns LaunchKit, which is a branding studio, not a marketing agency, in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And they have a small team of 6 people, all 20 somethings. And ever since I followed Kevin, his content, his business structure, the services they offer, I've been really been structuring MMG the same way. And he provides a ton of value and marketing insight for small businesses, which is a lot of the listeners of the Creative Journal as well. So a little more about Kevin, because I'm a huge fanboy, and that will become abundantly clear in the interview. But he graduated from college and started LaunchKit Design in 2020, started building up a team, bought the building. I've been documenting the whole journey along the way. He's a lefty golfer, very passionate, Tesla driver, and a fantastic dude too. Very, very grateful for Kevin's time today, and I think we had a really good conversation. Great vibes all around, and that's why, like, even being 26 years old, and I just turned 23, I think it's always good to have role models or people that you're pursuing to be like 2 to 3 steps ahead, someone that's still in sight. And as I craft the design agency, that's really what I'm going for. So, without further ado, if you're enjoying the show, like I said, we're closing in on 1 year of the Creative Journal podcast, which is absolutely mind blowing to me. And this is entry 50. So kind of a cool little milestone episode here. And I don't think there's anyone better to have on than the man, the myth, the legend, Kevin Camus himself. So without further ado, please welcome to the Creative Journal, entry 50, the one and only Kevin Camus. So I'll have people that I know way more about than know about me. So I sometimes fanboy. So if I do that, just remind me and I'll back up.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, man, I don't even know where to start. So I guess maybe people are listening don't know you as well as I do. And this is the first time we've talked, so I really don't know you that well. But yeah, I just love to give you a platform to kind of tell your story entrepreneurially. Like most of the guests are business owners. I kind of started it as a networking tool.
Sure.
But dude, like it's been a couple of months now. I always watch the vlogs. I've listened to all your content and so forth. And it's really impressive, especially at your age.
Sure.
I'm 23 right now. I think you're 25.
Yeah.
And dude, like I love the whole building in public sort of thing. And obviously we're in similar industries too, but I'd love to just hear your backstory, freshen the person and kind of what got you to where you are today.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to share the story. I appreciate the content support. It means a lot hearing stuff like that. That's kind of my motivation to keep going, right? I put a lot of time and effort into documenting this journey, so it's nice to know that somebody's watching. In terms of how we ended up sitting here in the LaunchKit office today, we're downtown Grand Rapids, Michigan. I started the company 4 years ago. After graduating from Grand Valley, it's a school here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I went to business school there, and during my time in school, I did freelance marketing work. I was always like the creative marketing guy. I was the one doing like photos, videos, web design projects, logo design stuff. Never did the traditional internship per se. I always elected to do the freelance marketing work because I enjoyed how much of a difference it can make in these small businesses. So when I would see a mom and pop, local business go from, when they had no branding, no marketing, no online presence, And then after I helped them out and did those things, the before and afters, the smiles on their faces and the difference it really made in their business, it meant a lot to me. I got a lot of fulfillment from it. So I just did that throughout college. I graduated in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic, and a lot of companies were on hiring freeze. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I still had my freelance projects going. At that time, it's mostly like friends and family circle. So like working on friends and families, websites, photos, videos, graphics, very basic stuff. But I think looking back, I did a good job of documenting those first, call them 5 projects, basically making case studies out of each project. Case studies is way too formal of a term for what I was doing. Basically, I was just posting on Instagram, but documenting those first 5 projects really helped me get the next 5, and break out from that like friends and family circle into doing business with people I didn't already know. And that was really the origin story of how I transitioned from college to taking on paid projects.
Yeah. Were you always sort of against the grain as far as like how early do you think you knew you wanted to kind of do your own thing versus was it kind of the pandemic that brought that on and you realized that like okay, like nobody's hiring, I'm gonna have to do it for myself? Was that like the forcing function, or did you always kind of begin with some of the people I've interviewed? It's like some of them began with this vision in mind, and then they just kind of connect the dots going forward.
Sure.
Like, kind of how early did you envision like something like this being founded, and what steps did you take early on to kind of make it a reality?
I think looking back when I was really young, I think I definitely had the entrepreneurial gene in my DNA. I look back, I remember when I was in middle school, I actually had my first business, a dog walking and plant watering business. So I think I've always been a bit entrepreneurial. I was in middle school. I remember I would walk people's dogs and water their plants when they're out of town. And every time I would make $60, I would go to GameStop and buy a new video game. And like, that was like my way of like making money and buying video games. So I started doing that. And then even going further back, I remember I used to always play Monopoly with my family.
Okay.
And the way I would play Monopoly is I would just continuously like double my bets. And like every time I had Monopoly money, I would buy another house or another hotel, and I would just keep doubling the bets and keep growing. And it's fast forward all the way till today. It's like, that's how I like run the business, is I'm constantly interested in like, what can we do to take things to the next step? If we have not disposable, but like revenue that can be placed somewhere, what can we invest in? Can we invest in talent, space, technology? I want to keep doubling the bets and growing. So to answer your initial question, like when did I first kind of think about that entrepreneurial route? I think it's always been in me. I think I get a lot of it from my immediate family. My parents, they've always been entrepreneurial. They've had their own business operations. And so I've just kind of watched them be a team. And I think that's probably where it came from.
Yeah, that's awesome. So your father was a golf course architect, and your mother had her own business, I remember.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking too, like golf. So how avid were you kind of as a player growing up? And I know you still play now a little bit, but talk about like golf and how big that is. And because dude, like, so I played golf in college, and
Sweet.
it's like, it's such a good, like, it ends up being like at these networking events and chambers of commerce and stuff, it ends up being like half the time is what I'm talking about, because it's just something people latch onto. It's like, oh yeah, what's your handicap? You played in school? That's cool. But like, what's kind of your backstory with golf? And because you've got a pretty crispy swing, so I know you can play a little bit, but talk
Andy,
about like your experience.
I gotta say thank you. First of all, I always admire a podcast host that does their research and like knows information about their guests. I think that's, if anybody asks me what's the difference between an average podcast and a great podcast, it's that right there. Being able to ask good, deeper questions, doing the research and evoking good answers. I'm excited to talk about this now. So so golf's been a huge part of my life ever since I was a little kid. Dad's been a golf course architect. He's done a few projects during my 25-year-old lifetime. It's always been a part of our family dynamic. My mom's been involved in the operations, basically in the sense that she would always do the food and beverage side of things. My dad would do the golf side of things. So most recently, we've had a course here in Grand Rapids, Alpine Golf Club, that I've been very involved with since we moved here in 2013. again, basically dad doing operations, mom doing food and beverage. I had the opportunity to get involved in that small business and learn
Mhm.
the marketing that small businesses need. So, but the golf specifically, it is a big part of my life. I think what's so cool about it is it's a lifelong game. I've been playing before I could barely walk. There's footage on tapes of me swinging a golf club,
Mhm.
um, and I'll be swinging that golf club until the day I die. And I think that's
Mhm.
really cool. It's an infinite game, and that you never win. It's never over.
Right.
Um, you're constantly making new relationships, playing new courses. You're going to have good days and bad days. We all do. We just watched Rory McIlroy last week, 2 weeks ago, miss
Mhm.
2 3 foot putts in the final round of the U.S. Open.
Mhm.
Like it happens to all of us, but we get
Mhm.
right back out there. We get back on that horse. So it's a big
Mhm.
part of my life. I think back about like some of my favorite memories with friends is on the golf course. And then I've also always kind of been motivated to work hard in life because I want to go on fun golf trips with the boys, like when I get older. And I'm blessed to be like getting into that position where like my friends and I are starting to go on fun golf trips together.
Mhm.
And I love that. And I want to keep that going for the rest of my life.
Nice, awesome. So, how seriously did you take it, like competitively? Did you play in any tournaments, travel at all, anything like that?
Yeah, great question. I played quite a bit of junior tournaments.
Mhm.
I did high school golf. I was lucky enough that I made varsity freshman year. So I played a
Nice.
lot of high school tournaments and then did some of the summer tour type junior tournaments. And I'll say this, I love the game of golf. I want to play the rest of my life. It's a big part of what I do, but there's such a difference between like playing competitive golf and playing
Yeah.
golf with your friends.
Mhm.
And I learned to recognize that truly competitive golf is not for me, and I'm okay with that. I
Mhm.
would look back and I got so much like frustration and anxiety and pressure and stress from trying to play the game of golf. And once I realized that, I'm going to make a living in business, golf's supposed to be fun. Golf's like my form of meditation, social
Mhm.
fun. Yeah, I might have a $5 bet on the line with the boys, but we're having a good time. We're not, sweating it out too much. And so
Yeah.
I went through the junior golf phase. I'm now definitely a recreational golfer. I'm a 3.5 handicap, so I can still certainly get it around.
Mhm.
But my best memories are now, having fun with the boys on the course.
Yeah. Good for you, man. Yeah, it's
What's your experience with competitive golf versus friendly golf?
um yeah, man. So it's man, I didn't start playing till high school. So I was big into baseball and basketball, swimming growing up. Um so I'd say like I used to be a real athlete, then I started playing golf. But
Yeah.
I really just lasted on to high school. I worked at two different golf courses in high school. So I was there all the time. Go there early, practice, work, get off, play. Um, and a couple of really nice courses like Urbana Country Club here in Ohio. It's a Pete Dye course.
Sweet.
Um, and so yeah, I was just enamored with it, and I got pretty good. I was around scratch,
Okay. Wow.
and this was, so I got to a position where it's like, okay, you're getting ready to graduate, you need to go find a way to play in school, or like you're starting to grow up a little bit, and I was just I never really focused on really early. I don't think any kid does. Well, when you kind of get to college, it's like you have to find or pick a major. What are you going to do for the rest of your life?
Sure.
And there's this thing called the PGM program,
Oh yeah.
which at the time only like 18 schools in the country had it. And so we just visited those. Like, okay, Andy's always at the golf course. We're going to do
Yeah.
something golf related for Andy, and this is like a career move. So we went and visited a lot of them: Coastal Carolina,
Yeah.
Campbell University. Um,
Florida
even
Gulf
there wasn't.
Coast,
Yeah, yeah.
and then
And
Paris.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And we settled on Methodist University in Fayetteville, North Carolina,
Yeah.
and played there for a year. And it's a very, very competitive. So they have a golf course on the course. Like it's an 18 hole. It's kind of a run of the mill, but it's student maintained. So it's like part of your responsibilities is you assign rules, pick the range every day, repair
Wow.
divots, mow, like all these things. And it was just so competitive, dude. Like some amazing players there. And I second semester, I went through some stuff like end of high school, like lost a bunch of weight and kind of got in my own head and stuff.
Sure.
But the second semester, I didn't even make the team. I
Wow.
kind of went through a bit of a personality crisis, and that was a big turning point for me. And kind of like you went through the same realization, like, okay, separate golf and life,
Yeah.
and golf is something that's fun, life is something that's real, and
Yeah.
that's kind of my growing up moment, I think. And so I transitioned back, transferred to a school close to home in
Yeah.
Northern Ohio.
Cool.
Graduated there in 2 years, so I took summer classes, overload classes to try and finish, and
Yeah.
then finished with a marketing degree. And then now worked at an agency for about 6 months after graduating. So it's like, okay, need to find a job in design, creativity. Was always freelancing in college, doing websites, found Webflow.
Cool.
And so I got a graphic design job out of school, was the first one I could find,
Oh, cool.
and moved out to a first apartment. And now I'm freelancing full time as of 5 months ago, and found my way forward. So that was the condensed version. But
That's really
yeah,
cool to hear like similarities and paths of like even like the nuances of like playing the game competitively as a junior and like kind of going through that
mhm,
transition phase of like, do I keep this going? Where do you drawing that line between fun and business and life? It's
yeah,
cool to hear that we both kind of ended up in let business be business. And the moment we're done with work, I can tell you probably where we're both going is to the course.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's I think, and to be honest with you, like that's why I resonated with you so much, is because I saw so much of that too, and also like, dude, like I was like such, and I think back on it now, like I apologize to my dad. I was like, he was driving me to all these tournaments, get hotels, pay for me to go to school to play golf, like all these things. And
Yeah,
I think back on it, like, man, I was such a child. Like, if I had a bad round, it was just personify it, take it on myself, take it
yeah,
out on other people. Um, and I'm grateful to myself that I kind of matured out of that in time to be
sure,
able to apologize and make amends for things like that.
certainly.
But dude, that game brings that game can bring out the worst in you.
Yeah.
But
Somebody, I can't take total credit for this, but I was listening to a podcast maybe a few months ago, and they talked about how much of a blessing it is to play sports like golf and tennis as a junior because
mhm,
you learn to regulate your own emotions.
yeah,
You have nobody to blame. There's nobody else's fault. If you hit a bad drive and you hit it in the hazard, it is 100% your fault. And you
mhm,
learn to take ownership of that. And I think that can really apply in business and life where, if you make a decision that leads to less than ideal outcome, you take full
mhm,
responsibility of it. And I think
heck
about
yeah,
that a lot of times. I can picture when I, chunking that shot, you know, there's nobody to blame. It's not the club's fault. It's not the ball's fault. It's your fault.
yeah.
Own it up, suck it up, and move on.
Exactly, yeah. But you always have the people that, try and still blame it on those things, and then you
Yeah.
realize, like, that makes me look like even more of an asshole when I try and do that, so,
Exactly.
um,
Exactly.
but, yeah, and there's always that one friend too that's like, I'm so it almost it surprised even my dad, like, he's like, "Man, like, I don't even you just seem to, like, not even care anymore, like,
Yeah.
your score and everything." I'm just like, honestly surprises me too, because I don't get to play as much as I used to. I kind of lost
Yeah.
a competitive edge from it.
Yeah.
And that came from time away. But
How's your game improved or worsened now that you are more chill about it?
well, definitely worsened from the technical
Okay.
aspects of it because I'm not practicing at all.
Sure.
But I would say I definitely enjoy it more. Like
Okay.
there's no anxiety around it. Like I used to even think like I have time off now. It's like how much of it have I lost? And I still
Yeah.
get a little bit of that. But as far as getting angry, I'm just like dude, I that's wasted mental energy at this point.
Yeah.
I think. But
Okay. Mine's been interesting. I've probably shaved off a few strokes since I
okay.
care less. Maybe care less isn't the right word. I know what you mean when you talk about like the frustration and like the anxiousness. Like now that that's out the window, I've shaved off a few strokes.
Good for you, man. How often do you get out?
I've been playing more recently. I just joined a country club here in town this year,
Nice.
so I've had the opportunity to get a lot of great games going with some buddies.
Mhm.
Probably like 3 days a week, I'd say.
Okay, yeah.
Played a fun alternate shot game last night with some buddies, so that was a bit of a challenge. But
Mhm.
then like tonight, I have a game, which is more chill game with some friends.
Yeah, dude. There's no more there's no more organic form of like meeting people and networking
Yeah.
than just from a business perspective. Because I mean, it's so popular now. Like even for different
Yeah.
reasons, like it's growing so fast. And I mean, you love to see it, but people, yeah, people get, they hit that one good shot. I used to give lessons. That was kind of my like entrepreneurial side that got engaged. Was like I worked at these PGM internships at these courses, and you
Yeah.
see like, okay, the head pro is like, holy cow, like this guy is working 80 hours a week. He's trying to please the membership. He's just not loving his life, giving lessons on the
Yeah.
clock. At least those are my experiences. There are definitely exceptions, but
You made a comment
so
about watching the game grow. I
mhm,
resonate with that heavily. I've watched that with my own eyes. I think it's, we're of that age where we've like watched the game grow significantly. I think
mhm.
back, and I'm curious your take on this too. You think back about like high school years. When I was in high school, at least, the only kids that played golf were the kids on the team. And like,
Yeah,
I'm not saying I got like bullied or made fun of, but like
yes,
the kids on the football and basketball team were certainly cooler by all means.
yeah,
And
dude.
it's
I
really
did I did get bullied. I'll just say that. Like I'll
okay,
confirm that.
interesting.
Yeah,
So, but now, years out of school, I play golf with the guys that were on the basketball and football team. They've all, they're
yeah,
not still playing basketball and football. They all picked up the game of golf.
yeah.
And now, I think we're a little bit blessed with the sense that we're a few strokes ahead.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like I saw this coming. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
but it's like cool now. So there's a lot more personality to it. And obviously, you have the whole live drama and stuff like that. But
yeah,
there's and people realize it's like, okay, I'm not gonna roll out of the office and then head straight to a pickup basketball game. Like some people do
yeah,
that, but it's
yeah.
definitely not as common.
I think the
And
whole like development of like where the PGA Tour's gone, where Live's gone, I think it's great. Can it be
yeah,
controversial which side of the coin you sit on? Yes, but overall, more people entering the game is a good thing. If you believe
yes.
this is a net positive on society, we want more people getting in. So it's been cool to watch it unfold, but I think it's been a positive.
Yeah, I think that's the approach any like rational like business person might take to it is that like,
Yeah,
okay, this is a good thing that people are actually involved in it rather than let's try and make it something that we want it to be. But
yeah,
yeah, man, that's awesome. I knew we'd get down a golf rabbit hole, but I have a lot of questions for you.
cool.
Um, so and we'll circle back to it because I could talk about golf all day. But so when it comes to like the business side of things, I'm curious like we kind of touched on like when did the vision like for bringing on team members like transitioning from freelancer to by the way like I think I came across your YouTube video for it was like probably your most viral video was how I use Webflow to build websites for small businesses or something like that.
Yeah,
I came across that probably years ago, and it
wow.
wasn't until like I started came across you like via the vlog like 5 6 months ago that I was like,
Yeah,
okay, it's the same guy. But
still doing it.
so yeah, it's like oh, it hasn't grown up yet.
Yeah,
Um, but what was the transition like from like freelance to full time, or
sure.
from freelance to wanting to build a team? I'll give you like a little bit of backstory, but so like I kind of experienced like the same thing, like the loneliness, the team, and really trying to share as much as I can to kind of make it real because it's like you're in your apartment all day, you're working, and it's like you can almost delude yourself and think like, is this business like is like even real? Like I'll be sure I'll post about it, but it's like it's so much of it is just you, and then if you don't share with if you're not as good as sharing as you should be, then it's like almost all in your head.
yeah.
But I recently got approved for like a tech internship. So for the
Okay.
past 2 weeks, I've been working with a local high school kid, and this kid is way smarter than I am. And like we meet twice a week, and I've built out like a little library in Notion, like recording some Loom videos of like how
Sweet.
to use Webflow CMS, like how to use LinkedIn, um, so like small stuff. And like we'll meet twice a week, and it's like I'm so excited to like show up like for this kid, and like
Sure.
he's like a developer, like he knows PHP, knows Ruby, Python, and Java.
Wow.
He's like I was like maybe you could build like we work on like a project where you build some kind of like custom client portal or get you in ClickUp or something like that. But anyway, like so that's why it's like really top of mind for me. But what was like the transition from freelance, and when did you know you want to build it into more of a team shared environment?
Sure. I'll kind of bridge the story from where we were talking about golf, and then switch up to
Yeah.
business, so I can kind of loop that in. So
Sorry.
a lot of this
Hard
actually
pivot.
stems back to golf. So during my high school and college days, I was very involved in my family's golf course here in Grand Rapids, Alpine. Um, in around 2013, 14, Alpine was doing very poorly as a business and financially. We were
Mhm.
underwater, we were losing money, um, and we really needed a turnaround in terms of overall like brand. We had no brand presence per se. We had no presence on the internet.
Mhm.
The golf course itself needed some work as well. It really needed a full on turnaround. So we were in a position where we didn't really have, to be honest, we just didn't have the money to like hire experts. Um,
Mhm.
so really the only option we saw, and I kind of saw, was okay, I need to learn how to do this. I recognized that it didn't need rocket science. It just needed like the basic marketing package per se.
Mhm.
So through YouTube videos, I learned how to do basic web design, basic graphic design, like the basic starter kit marketing for a business. And I did
Mhm.
it for Alpine. Over 10 years, we built that into a very solid reputation, really solid presence on the internet, all the way to the point it actually got bought and we sold it this past year. We exited. So I
Nice.
watched it go from doing terrible all the way to the come up to the point of a sale. So
Yeah. Good for you, man.
I didn't know that was in the future at the time, but
Mhm.
basically I did this for Alpine. I saw the impact it could make. So that was the spark of, okay, I want to do this for other businesses, right? I saw the difference it made for Alpine. Now I just started doing that formula for these other businesses.
Mhm.
And so to answer your question about when did I kind of pivot from being me, the creative, to me, the business owner, that is the after college. I've been doing it for Alpine. I've been doing this for other friends and families' businesses. Um, I loved what we were doing. I was just getting lonely doing it myself. So
Mhm.
I had an apartment downtown, and I could go days without seeing anybody. Maybe I'd interact with somebody via a Zoom call or something, meeting with a
Mhm.
client. But I started to realize that I was more the business guy. Um, I got in tune to what things give me energy and what things take away energy. And I
Mhm.
recognized that things like system building and spreadsheets and finances, business connections gave me energy. I would have
Mhm.
more energy at the end of that than when I began, versus looking at like a blank artboard on Illustrator or a blank timeline on Premiere drained
Mhm.
me of energy. A few hours into editing or designing, I would feel like I had less energy than when I started. And I think that was just an early sign of, people always say, like, do what you love and you never work a day in your life. What I'm
Mhm.
saying, kind of along those lines, like, building systems in ClickUp or Zapier or HubSpot, that's easy to me. I could do it all day. I don't need any sort of motivation or, inspiration to do that. Um, so once I
Mhm.
realized what I was enjoying, I then started having conversations with true creatives who are the opposite, where they lose
Mhm.
energy from having to do a spreadsheet or taxes or logistics or like any of the boring business stuff per se. They
Mhm.
get energy from the creative work. And when you
Mhm.
pair someone like myself up with a true creative, we have a mutual respect for each other. I respect what
Mhm.
you do, and you respect what I do, and we can go further together. Let me be the business guy. Let me set up the articles of organization and file the LLC and taxes and all the stuff, and all you have to worry about is being creative and designing and making great designs. So once I
Yeah.
realized that everybody doesn't think like me, it completely shifted from being a solopreneur providing a service to a business owner that wants to build a great company that people enjoy working for.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah, dude. So like, yeah, so good. And what I loved about that is like some people say like when you start to transition from doing the creative to like being the business owner. So like have you ever read E-Myth Revisited, Michael
No,
Gerber?
no.
So he has like the three entrepreneurial personalities. It's like the technician, the entrepreneur, and I can't remember the last one. But it's all three parts of you that need to go into making a business,
Sure.
and they're like constantly. These three personalities are constantly at war with each other.
Okay.
So, and I was warned so much about like, okay, if you want to do this full time freelance, or you want to start to build a team, or you want to make it a business, then you're not going to be doing the creative work as much. And I kind of always embodied that personality. Like I was always the creative person growing up. I had the journal. I was always doing some sort of graphic design.
Yeah.
Um, logo design was what I did like growing up. And people were like, yeah, you're going to lose that when you become a business owner. And I still like, I just found it's just not true at all.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, like getting keeping conscious tabs on what gives you just said it, and I said it like so many times, is keeping tabs on what gives you energy versus what takes it away. So I leave a networking event, I leave like working with Liam, like I walk out of that thing like excited to get back to it rather than like dreading it,
Yeah.
whereas like you said, like the blank artboard, the blank timeline, I'm so much more invigorated by, I see this a lot in you too, is the prospect of having to get the work rather than it's like, oh, now I have to fulfill it.
Sure.
I'd rather like empower other people to do the same thing. And for right now, it's just me, and I'm learning like there's two sides to it. And but yeah, no, that's yeah,
Which
everything you
side do
said
you
is really
find that you enjoy more?
definitely like business development. So like meeting people, and I kind of like took it to its extreme when I first started.
Yeah.
So like started first time I had like a small runway, like just clients from past freelance, like college, maybe three or four consistent ones.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, like I gotta make this work. So three chambers of commerces, two
Oh,
referral groups. Um, I have like I started doing like days in the lives and vlogs for
yeah.
LinkedIn, and I had 13 events in 9 days.
Wow.
And so that was like when I first started. So I was like, okay, I need to revert back to some kind of like homeostasis. But I was just like, I was always excited to get out of bed in the morning. And when I first started, it was so hard because you have to be forced to like elaborate. Okay, these are the services we offer. This is what I do. You kind of have to put what you do into language, and you're just putting yourself out there. And I was always introverted, like growing up. Like I took speech therapy. I used to have these big tie-dye hearing aids. I was always the one, and with drawing in his journal in the corner. Um, so like I never saw myself as that person that's like, okay, salesman, marketing the business. But then it took me all of a couple months to kind of remove that identity from myself that I had all growing up.
Sure.
Um, so I think, I mean, it's recent too, and I'm not attached to any sort of like actual personality traits, but I do enjoy the, and there's sides of both of it too. Like even you guys with the hybrid work environment, it's like there's days when you have to lock in and do the work, and there's days when you need to interact and um, elaborate the stuff that's like articulate the stuff that's going inside your head, share that, get feedback. And so I see the value in both, but the days where I'm like out and about um, are the ones I'm like most energized because I can go back to work with actually having these inputs that are making me more creative, that are growing me. And but yeah, what were the kind of like the first signs for you that you weren't attached to doing the creative work itself?
I think it was when the business was in the early like development days when there was so much infrastructure to build, things like needing to set up project management systems and needing to set up finance solutions, how to keep track of budgets, payroll, just general small business accounting. I really got attached to that and just general business development. I started gravitating towards wanting to do the business development, system design work as opposed to doing the truly creative design work,
Hmm. Yeah,
which you don't
it's
really see the business tasks, the business development tasks don't present themselves until you start to build a company as opposed to a solopreneur business.
hmm Yeah, and it kind of manifests itself in different ways too. So you can probably relate with this. With like, I worked at an agency for 6 months, and it was like wrestling apparel. So I got to design like stuff that would some of the best wrestling teams in the country would wear, and it's just like, oh, okay, cool. Like the shipment came in. These are these designs. I made this one for my old high school. They printed that out for their entire program, and it's like I got to see it, hold it, and I'm like, I'm seeing, like, I'm holding this like sweatshirt that I designed and
Yeah.
these socks or whatever, and I'm like this is cool. But it's like that feeling passes very fast, and then I realized I was like, okay, like I worked really hard to do that, and then it's kind of like a short burst. It's like a very inefficient fuel source. Whereas like I switch it to like content or business development, and I see track the finances. I see this is what I'm making every month. This is my amount of active clients. It's a much slower burn, but that rewarding feeling from that is like I realized yes, and it's something like it might even just hit you out of the blue, or it's something that's so slow. But like I realized yesterday, okay, like I just hit 1,000 LinkedIn followers, and when
Yeah.
I first started the business, I had 180,
Heck yeah.
and I wasn't tracking it every day. It's just okay, it's the day to day. Just post once a day, 10, 5, 1, 10 comments. Like the steps that led to that outcome were a lot more rewarding when you look back on it rather than having this small win that is very like few and far between. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the difference between the two. But um, something I wanted to ask you about. Do you have any like controversial opinions or like hot takes on like marketing or business? Because you guys have, I think it was like 70 active clients now, and I know like between that, you just meet with so many more. So what have you seen to kind of like be effective in terms of like the lowest hanging fruit for small businesses? Because a lot of them don't have, like you said, the biggest budgets or the most. They don't even see the value in it for themselves. But what's some of like the lowest hanging fruit that you've seen to get the 80/20, I guess, so the most effort for the littlest
Yeah.
results?
So in terms of the lowest hanging fruit or kind of best, what's the starter kit? Where do you begin? We've broken it down to basically a 4-step playbook that any business should be able to have, no matter your size or budget. We put these steps in order, and it's a very actionable checklist. We actually have this as a guide on our website that you can download as a PDF if anybody's actually interested in this. But basically, step 1 is brand development. It's you want to establish your brand's mission, your values, and your identity. Mission is what do you guys stand for? How are you going to make decisions? Values is what core first principles will you use as your business develops? And then your identity is things like the logo, color, and font. So think of that as like the foundation that your house is going to get built upon. You want to start there. Step 2 is your website. Essentially, in marketing, all roads are going to lead back to your website, right? Whether it's a billboard on the highway, and TikTok, or a paid Facebook ad. In reality, everyone's going to your website. We want to make sure you have a really solid foundation. If the entire internet was a spider web, the website would sit at the very center of it. So after brand development, website is step 2. Step 3 is photo and video content. So this is basically the gasoline that powers this entire engine. We want to see businesses creating photos and videos on a consistent basis. I don't care what you're shooting the content with. I don't care if you hire LaunchKit to do it, your cousin, or you do it yourself. We just want to see you creating content consistently. That content you create, it's going to get used on all touch points of your business. So maybe it goes on your website. Maybe it goes on organic social media. Maybe it gets used in an ad. Maybe it's in a flyer, whatever it might be. You just want to be creating photo and video content. Don't overthink it. Step 4, the last step, is organic social media. We need to be on the 6 core platforms this year. Every year we take a look at all the platforms available and make our recommendation of what platforms small businesses should be on. This year we want to see you on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Google My Business, LinkedIn, and Facebook. The reason you need to be on all of them is because they each hit a different segment of customers, and we don't know where somebody's going to look you up. For example, you and I might be on the golf course, and maybe we're playing in league together. Okay. And we meet and I mention I have this business. You don't know where I'm going to look you up. And let's say I pull out my phone and I go to YouTube and look you up. Are you going to be proud of what comes up when I hit search? If the answer is no, then that's a problem. You want to be proud and confident that whatever comes up when somebody searches your business on any of those platforms, you want to be confident that you're going to put your best foot forward. So low hanging fruit, those four: brand development, web design, photo, video content, omnipresence on social media.
Nice. Yeah. And yeah, I love how you have that down there too. And it's kind of like from like our side of the business, it's like it's so easy to push that to the back burner. Like I even saw with my own branding. It's like people, especially small business owners, are working really hard. Um, and it's like, yeah, I know my website's terrible. It's like, yeah, I know my social media is bad. It, but it's like they don't have the bandwidth, and part of it's probably not seeing the value in it. But it's not a bullet wound. It's more of like a slow bleed as far as the impact it can have kind of on your
Yeah,
business.
it can be a
And
simple. Go ahead.
yeah, for sure. Um,
Like, for example,
and
you could hand me a business card, and maybe your website's on the business card, and like we have a great first interaction, and then I look you
mhm,
up. Is your website going to close the deal, or is it going to fumble the bag?
yeah, yeah, because I mean, for a lot of business too, it depends on the industry. And you guys have worked in a lot of different industries, which I think is what's really kind of rewarding about what we do.
Mhm.
Um, and it's also, yeah. So, um, I have like a lot of questions that just came to mind, but like from your perspective of like, I'm trying to like keep it like valuable. So like marketing insights for the audience, but I'm like super stoked to be talking to you and I want your perspective on something. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to balance like the selfishness and the value. But, so like from your perspective, like how do you, as a business owner, it's like, okay, you define your ideal target customer
Okay.
and you want it to be something like so out of the box, like so clearly defined, like this is who we're targeting, who we need to reach out to. But not everyone fits into that like shoebox that you lay out. And you want to work with people in other industries, other ages, other demographics, other levels of revenue, business size, employee size. Um, so my question to you is like, how do you find the balance of like not being everything for everyone? You niche. I think you do a good job, and maybe you account for this by very clearly defining your services rather than very clearly defining who you work with, so they can kind of slot themselves into like what they need rather than who they are. I guess that's one way to put it. But
Yep.
how have you? What's been your kind of? Because I see you like build the business, and like I know you're thinking about everything. So like, what's kind of your thoughts on niching and how you went about doing it for LaunchKit?
It's a great question. Our target customer that we've landed on is a small business owner operator who's passionate about sharing their story.
Okay.
Short and simple. That's it. And it can
Okay.
apply to so many different ranges. I agree. You can go down a wormhole of like, we want, 35-year-old female business owners in the skincare industry. You're right. That's super niche down. We've took a more generalized approach and went with small business owner operators who are passionate about sharing your story. I can make sharing your story be any sort of marketing activity.
All
Sharing your
right.
story can be developing your brand kit that's a logo that embodies who you are and communicates your values. Sharing your story can be building a website that authentically showcases your team, your people, what you guys are about. Sharing your story can be photos and videos that show you guys in action. Social
Yeah.
media, sharing your story, it's literally sharing your story on social media.
Yeah.
So we used that core first principle that we can stay true to that and help a pretty wide range of people.
Yeah. I love that. And I see that now kind of from the services you offer, you have everything that can be construed to support that main kind of North Star.
Yep.
So I do love that. And so like between me and you, like something I'd really, really value your opinion on is like when people say to market your business, um, you don't want to try and appeal to like one person. So this kind of dovetails off what I said, but how do you service how do I word this right? So how do you guys how have you thought about like targeting your customer to be small business owners, but also not saying we're compromising on quality or price. Like we're not low quality because we're working with small business owners, but that's just who we work with because we want to tell their story. Because like I've seen, and it's I've seen some people say like if you target small business owners and you budget for them, and we just talked about like a lot of small businesses don't have the biggest budgets,
Mhm.
then you degrade the quality of what you offer and all these things too. So, and I think you've done a great job of like everything on your website, everything in your marketing material branding is so professional,
Thank
but
you.
it's targeted at a small business owner so they can look at it and say like, oh, it's still professional. But how have you kind of gone about finding that balance? I know I didn't word that the best, but
You're good. I see where you're going. I think it's a big part of what we do. So I'm excited to get the opportunity to talk about it. We've taken the approach where we have developed packages and offerings that we are very confident will help businesses. So
mhm,
we're one of the only marketing agencies, marketing studios where you can go to our website and see exactly what we offer.
yeah,
We've built packages that we're confident in, and they're based, they are for sale at a price in which we're happy to offer them. It's no different than, I walk into the Apple store and they sell this at
mhm,
my iPhone at a price in which they are happy to sell it. They've actually developed a range of iPhones to meet different needs because they recognize that we don't all use our phones the same. They've developed a range of iPhones that meet different needs. We've taken the same approach at LaunchKit where we've developed different marketing solutions for businesses who have different needs.
mhm,
Yes, the cheaper options are more of a lighter package. The more expensive options are a more in-depth, heavy package. Um, the good news is, you can start out with one package, and over the years, as your business grows, you can always elevate and get different packages. Just
yeah,
like I may start off with maybe a basic MacBook Air, and then maybe I get more technical, and eventually I need the MacBook Pro. That's great. They're both great products. Apple is stoked to sell both of them. We take the same approach.
yeah. I like that. I like that a lot because I've been told to not price yourself as affordable, but rather to, and I think there's some metric to be said of like it's going to attract who it attracts, and trying to
Yeah,
control it too much is can be a fatal flaw. But yeah, I think there's a definite differentiation between intentionally we work with small businesses and we are affordable because I think that there's a big difference there. And I think that's like when I see you guys, that's what I think of, and that's what I'm trying to
yeah.
avoid kind of as I build my own thing.
I think
Um,
affordable is the problem with saying you're affordable is relative. What's affordable for one person is a totally different standard than somebody else.
yeah,
A college kid buying a MacBook, that thing costs a lot more money to them. Whereas, me buying MacBooks because they're revenue generating tools that allow me to make money, I can
mhm,
buy a MacBook like that. But that's just because it's relative. I could, LaunchKit's entry level logo price for a logo kit, it's
mhm,
$3,000. I recognize that's not cheap. It's a significant amount of money. You can go on Fiverr and you can get it for $5.
right,
Um, so you just have to understand why what are your priorities. So the reason that people come to LaunchKit is they're basically paying us to make sure we get it right. They're paying for that
yeah,
security to make sure we think it through because they're thinking about, let's say they go with the $5 logo from Fiverr and they put it all over their business. It's everywhere. It's out front on the sign. And
mhm,
it turns out to be not the best representation of their business. It's now going to cost so much more than $3,000 to change it because it's everywhere. Maybe it's wrapped on your trucks. It's on all your merch.
yeah,
Now all of a sudden, $3,000 looks pretty cheap. So it's
yeah,
relative based on what your priorities are. So I would say
yeah, too.
don't market yourself as affordable or cheap. Charge what you're confident allows you to do the work you want to do.
Yeah, and so much of it is communication, right? Too. So like you're not offering the same thing. Like if people will say like, "Oh yeah, I can go on Wix or Squarespace and build a website for free." It's
Yeah,
like, yeah, I mean, I actively encourage DIY tools, and
yeah,
getting online is more important than not at
yeah,
all. But it's
yeah.
really not the same product that we offer. Like I've used the analogy, and I'm still kind of iterating and playing on it, but
Yep.
like a DIY website is actually I really value your feedback on it. So like
Mm,
I position like okay a DIY website or even like a link tree or something like that basically a digital business card, right?
Okay.
So it'll display your contact information, non-pushy. It gives people a way to, if they have the incentive, gives them a place to reach you if they're feeling motivated. But like a custom website like Webflow, maybe even WordPress, depending on if you want to put yourself through that. But they are more like a digital salesperson, right? So they can craft a custom message based on who they're talking to. They can store information and they can take action and actually like craft a proposal that meets them where they are in that customer journey. So it's like two totally different things, but it's better to have a business card than not have one because we've all been to a networking event. We don't have
Yeah.
one.
Yep.
But not all of us can have the fancy, employee and the salesman that does our marketing for us.
Yeah.
So that's where I place it in my mind is that you can't like, yeah, we have premium prices, but we're not affordable. But this is why. And like, I'm transparently, dude, like I am a not the best salesman.
Mhm.
And every time I like make that mindset shift, like, okay, I'm in selling, then I lose it. Like it's
Okay.
so I just what's helped me a lot is just like, okay, education. If I just show I'm genuinely enthusiastic about what I do
Yeah.
and share like how beneficial I actually think it is, then that just comes off as so much more genuine and it's so much easier for me to talk about rather than feeling like I'm having to try and convince other people of my value or of
Yeah.
the value that it has. So it's just like
I'm
kind
a
of
little
making
bit
that
in the
mindset shift
same.
has helped.
I'm in the same boat with you. As I don't think I'm much of a salesman per se. I'm also enthusiastic about what we do, and one of the best
Mhm.
talking points that I've found when it comes to talking about DIY versus hiring a professional service like the ones we offer. Um, as you develop your business, there's a spectrum of time and money. Okay. When you're early on in your business, you have a lot of time and no money. Okay. If you're in that position, you should build your own website. As your business
Mhm.
develops, you start losing time, but you have more money. And it
Yeah.
becomes where am I going to allocate my resources to get the most amount done? So, for example, let's say I have a plumbing issue at my condo. Okay. I could try and DIY it this weekend. Okay. I'm going to have to look up what I need to fix this. I'm going to have to go to Lowe's. I'm going to have to get the parts. Cost me a little bit of money. Then I'm going to have to more YouTube videos trying to figure out how to fix this. I am dumping hours into this at this point.
Mhm.
And then the result, it's probably going to be a mediocre job, to be honest.
Mhm.
Um, I could do that if I had the time and no money.
Mhm.
If your situation changes and you could hire an expert, you would spend little to no time, you would spend some money, but you'd get it done right. It's kind of the same way as, okay, yes, you could build your own website, it's going to be cheaper. Do you have the time to spend to learn how to do web design, or would you rather just pay us to do it and do it going forward?
Yes. Yeah. Two things from what you just said. So, and I wrote them down because I don't want to forget. But one of them is that's why like working with like B2B, like working with business owners, you
Yeah.
can see there. I usually not the stereotype, but you can usually see like they make the connection, like, and they're much more willing to admit like, okay, I'm not an expert in this, and
Mhm.
I will pay someone else to do it because that's what they've been doing since they built a business. Is like, okay, and you kind of talked about it in the beginning, like what's the allocation of um, building the business. Like I know I have to invest in different things, and they're usually transparent enough to recognize that they're not the experts and they want help. They want teammates to help them. Another thing was you touched on like it looks different for everybody. So what phase do you value the most out of what you can offer? And I think the real skill set is like finding your staying rigid and you're not rigid, but staying consistent in your services and offering, but
Mhm.
being able to identify with each use case, like how are they getting the most value out of them for who they are. So like for example, like this this lawyer's website, like they she doesn't need like she doesn't need leads coming in from her website. She's
Mhm.
working 12 hours a day. She always has inquiries. She needs time and she needs less stress. But the Wix website that she built when she was much younger, like 2012, and that looks horrible, and she's insecure about sending it to her clients and getting referrals through it. That's what's actually causing her pain, not the fact that like with maybe 90 other percent of businesses, it's not sending her leads, it's not marketing her business for her.
Yeah.
So not everyone's trying to get the same thing out of your services, but that doesn't mean that they can't work with you.
Yep.
So
Agreed.
something I'm trying to get better at is like, and honestly, like with sales too, I try and do like as little talking as I can. Like, it helps me not say something stupid, which is like bound to happen.
Yeah.
But it also like people, I mean, people like talking about themselves. I mean, I've seen that with the podcast. People are much more willing to talk to me if I um, give them a spotlight, and they get to do the talking. But like it's just human nature. And if you're learning, and I'm trying to be like more conscious as you meet people at these events and you have calls and you do business development, is like, okay, what is their situation and how can I inject myself to add value, regardless of whether it means we're business partners or their clients or whatever. And I think that's a real skill set. So, do you have any ways of um, kind of doing that for LaunchKit? Is like how, like, first of all, what does your guys' marketing look like? I know you drink your own Kool-Aid. You're very consistent on the SEO, the blog posts, the vlogs, the posting. What is your approach to marketing, and what? I know I just told the whole story and went into a question, but
You're good.
um, how do you think about marketing for LaunchKit, and how does that differentiate from what you preach to small business owners?
It's very similar. You kind of nailed it that we drink our own Kool-Aid. The core four that I mentioned, the brand development, web design, photo, video, organic social media, that is what we do. We do it in a few different ways. So we've done our brand development. We know who we are. We know what we stand for. We know how we make decisions, and we know who we can identify ourselves. Logo, color, font. Okay. We've
Mhm.
built out a very thorough website that really answers all the questions.
Mhm.
It's got pricing, it's got process, it's got how to get started, it's got all the answers there. And what I've found has been useful with that is by the time I get on a sales call with somebody, they're
Mhm.
basically already sold, because all of the questions, usually in any business deal, they want to know how much it's going to cost, how long it's going to take, and what's included. If you can just
Yep.
answer those three questions without having to sweat, put it on your website, you'll close deals like that.
Yeah.
So we've done that. All the answers are there. If they see all of that and they still want to talk to me and they schedule a call, they're pretty much already sold. They just want to usually talk. So the website does a great job of pre-qualifying people, for example. Okay, step 3, photo, video content. We do a ton of it.
Yeah.
There's a whole content strategy behind, basically, like me, Kevin, I'm creating my own content that goes on my core 6 platforms. And then LaunchKit is creating its own content that goes on LaunchKit's core 6 platforms. So in reality, we're hitting 12 platforms total that we're posting at least 3 to 5 times a week on per
Mhm.
platform. You can add that up; it adds up pretty quick. It's a lot of content's going out.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, that's kind of it. Yes, we dabble with some Meta ads and Google ads running, but it's mostly just because we're in that business and we need to stay up to date on what's new and what's working and what's not working.
Mhm.
I know the numbers just because I made some recent videos about it. I think we've got 188 clients total in CRM. Like 70
Wow.
of them have come from organic social. If somebody asks me, does it work? I'll just tell them, yes, it works. Clearly, it worked for us, and that's what we now offer for our clients. Is we've taken that formula and we do it for our clients, and it works for them. I
Yeah.
can be confident in selling it because it's helped me build this business.
Yeah. And I think there's like two sides to that. So like the first, it's like as you're talking, I get so many ideas, and then I'm like have to segment them. So like the first thing you said about like people are already sold when they get on the website. It's like
Yeah,
I think it's Hormozy said this thing about he doesn't want to sell you. He wants you to make a decision, and
sure.
his job is to basically give you all the tools that you need to make the decision whether it's with me or not. So it takes a lot of the pressure off of it. And as far as marketing, like on social media, it's like people, and it sounds like cliche or stereotype or whatever, but like people buy from like people. So I
Sure.
think about it, and if you even think about the companies that you follow, if you can put a face to it, if you can see, then I think there's this weird shift in our mind. Like we see someone on, it was kind of like me when I met you. I was like,
Yeah.
you see someone online on social media, it's like they're bigger than life,
Yeah.
And it creates that exposure, helps you stay top of mind too. So all those smaller things.
Yep.
And I think that kind of we're in that age of like social media is still kind of holds the same headspace as like when we were a kid and we see an ad on TV.
Yeah.
Um, it's like I remember the first time I went to a Cincinnati Reds game.
Cool.
When I was like 5 years old, and I remember I so remember seeing like Joey Votto, or I'm not even Joey Votto, but or like seeing him for the first time, like as a real person, and I
Yeah.
had always watched him on TV. I was like, oh my god, he's like moving and he's big, and so I think there's a little bit of that element to it too. If you see a company, if you see the founder on social
Yeah.
media, and then you're like, oh man, like it's actually a real person. So it kind of creates this larger than life illusion.
It's a persona.
Um, yeah, exactly. But I don't want to keep you all day. I really, really value your time. So, if I could ask like one question, I'd really value your feedback on
Yeah.
is, what's like a failure, and that's a heavy word, but what's like a shortcoming that you've had building the business that you're like grateful for, like either for the lessons it's taught you or the path it set you on, and what's something that you can learn from that?
Not everything you do, not every line of business you go into, not every offering you create is going to be successful. You're going to have some home runs and you're going to have some misses. Um, whether you relate this to creating content, starting lines of business, creating products, every time you step up to bat, you have the opportunity to hit a home run. You might hit some singles, you might hit some doubles, heck, you might even hit a grand slam, but most of the time you're probably going to strike out, and that's okay. You never will get that opportunity if you don't step up to the plate. We've had products, we've had services that have flopped. We've also had ones that are home runs. We never know if we didn't try.
Right. Yeah. What does that look like for you as a specific example? Was it maybe, and I'm sure you've iterated on things like your pricing and the team structure, work from home, remote, like all these other different things that you've done to you know separate yourself, create brand. What is one of the things that has had outsized ROI, and what's like an example of the opposite, where maybe it didn't go according to plan?
Yeah, so I think it's natural in that any business as it develops is going to have its, call it cash cow, where you get more and less revenue from. Um, so like and you can relate this to any business. Like I think Apple makes like majority of its money from the iPhone sales, and I think services is like creeping up right behind it. You know, iPads are not what make them who they are. They still allocate a
Right.
lot of resources to it because it's part of the ecosystem. Now I'm talking about one, they're Nvidia, Microsoft, or Apple. It's one of at any given day they're one of the biggest companies in the world. Now bring it way down to earth to LaunchKit. Some of our businesses are going to be more cash cows and some are going to be more supportive business lines of business.
Hmm.
We've found that over the years, our main two core bread and butter services are our web design offering and our photo, video, social media offering. Those
Okay.
two, do more volume and more revenue than any other line of business. But believe me, we are equally as stoked when somebody reaches out wanting to do brand development, logo design projects.
Hmm.
It's not our cash cow, but it's a very fulfilling project for us to do.
Hmm. Yeah, and you also have the one-off offers, so you're kind of meeting people at every stage. So like my approach to that was like, okay, we have like cluster your services into like build, nurture, and grow. So you have something that can meet people where they're at. Whether
Yeah.
it's brand
I like
development, that would be like a build service.
that. Yeah.
Nurture service is like marketing, setting up channels, getting established, and then a grow is like running ads
Yeah.
or more advanced marketing integrations, CRM, stuff like that.
I really
Um,
like that breakdown. That's awesome.
cool, thank you. I actually brought some value to the conversation.
Yeah. That's a good way of
But
looking at it.
thank you. Yeah. So I have like a quick game I want to play. It's called No Context. It'll
Sweet.
take 2 minutes. But basically, I say two options, and without any context, just pick one.
Okay.
And they start easier, they get a little bit harder, but yeah, no context. So, number one,
Sounds like a good
no.
vlog.
Okay, yeah, that's dude. That's been something I'm struggling with too, because like I have all these meetings with people at events, and I'm still like getting over that fear of like using the camera and being like a TikToker or whatever.
Oh,
but I've learned just like I'm still at that phase. I'm trying to tune it out because I think it's
yeah,
awesome. But anyway, so number one, Notion or ClickUp?
both.
Both. Okay.
I have them both open right
Okay.
now.
Right. Yeah. So you have the it's a quick tangent, but you have the or the podcast and uh, book library. I built the same thing. So
Mhm.
because I saw that video of yours. But
Yeah, so I
next.
use Notion for all like the little bit more personal side of stuff. Like my library's there. It's documentation of everything I've ever read, listened to. I'm currently training for a marathon, so like that training plan is in there. I have an
Yeah.
archive of all the golf courses I've played and what I've shot. That's all
Yeah.
in Notion.
Yeah. It's like
ClickUp's
yeah, it serves dude, I can nerd out about Notion, but ClickUp is more like robust, but it's
yep,
the friction between like just getting something out there, like making a quick database, that's like the difference for it. So like Notion is perfect for like day-to-day stuff, and then ClickUp would be like big picture, like client stuff. Like
yep,
that's kind of how I see that.
exactly how
More
we use it.
advanced. Yeah, cool, awesome. Tangent. Okay, Apple or Samsung?
Is that even a question? Apple
I told you they're going to start easy, but they'll get harder. Um, Scrambled eggs or fried eggs?
scrambled,
Okay,
only scrambled. I don't like fried eggs.
really?
I actually
Well,
don't
because
eat
like,
eggs. I actually recently, it's funny you say this. I actually recently stopped eating eggs.
really?
Yeah, I've had
I
a
mean,
really
we got.
sensitive stomach like all growing up, and I never was able to diagnose what was wrong with me per se. I thought it was like lactose intolerance,
Uh-huh.
thought it was I needed to cut gluten. Never really found anything other than like IBS, which is a super vague diagnosis.
Yeah.
Over the past recent years, I've just gotten really in tune with what I'm putting into my body and then
Yeah.
understanding how it affects it. So being in tune to, okay, I just ate eggs. How do I feel? Kind of just isolate the variables. I eat a really kind of simple, clean diet so I can
Uh-huh.
introduce and remove something and really easily see if it's making me feel better or worse.
Yeah. And there's a couple. This is a weird part because like I know so much about your life, but
Yeah,
like I know you did like Factor,
yeah,
HelloFresh, stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, I think there's an ROI there. I don't know. So like I'm big in. I used to be a personal trainer in college, and I'm big into like running, bodybuilding, stuff like that. So I've experimented a lot too, and
Sure.
like I've been on both sides of like the whole eating disorder side of things. So I'm always kind of experimenting too. But let me get my chargers.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. But yeah. So I've like I wanted to experiment too with like the pre-prepared sort of meals. Um, Okay, dude. I walked out there and the maintenance guy was fixing the AC. I had no idea he was in my apartment, so that scared the crap out of me. But I just take like 10 seconds here. But um, yeah. So diet. Yeah. Have you ever tried like carnivore or like something like to that polar extreme? Because I know this is a whole rabbit hole. But
Yeah, no, never any like particular diets, as opposed to like paleo, vegan, vegetarian, never anything like that. Just being really in tune to what I eat. I'd say I reduced the number of things I eat. So like I kind of have two breakfasts. I either have a bagel and yogurt on one day, or I'll have oatmeal and sausage. And I kind of just flip flop back and forth. So I've identified that I used to have a third. I used to do scrambled eggs. I'd make like a breakfast burrito. And I recognized that on the breakfast burrito days, I actually did not feel the best. So I
yeah,
cut that out. Now I'm just down to two breakfasts, and I feel great when I have those.
it's typical marketer Kevin, just A/B test and
Yep,
split test, see how it works.
exactly.
Um, Yeah, cool. I don't know. I'm like in my mind, I pictured you as like a fried eggs guy because fried eggs is like very like clean and neat, and
Yeah,
like I can just picture you like flipping the eggs. Okay.
flipping it.
But
Yeah, yeah. Never
yeah,
got into
scrambled. I like scrambled too.
cool.
Um, what about hard boiled? I didn't think about that.
No,
No.
I scrambled. I do. I love scrambled eggs. I would eat them if
Yeah.
I could every day, but it's just not worth it.
Damn. I was hoping we could be friends. But okay. So
Hard.
I know I made this question and I saw you reel about it. It was like coffee or I know. Are you decaf still? What's the
Mm-hmm.
motto there? Decaf?
Decaf. Yep. I
Cold brew.
switched
Okay.
like maybe about a month ago now. I started drinking coffee when I was in college. I really got into, I actually love the taste of just black coffee. And I think because of
Yeah.
that, I got really into like understanding the brewing and roasting process. I've learned to appreciate good coffee. I love making coffee. I'm a diehard Chemex fan. Um,
Oh yeah.
so it was always a part of my routine. Never would drink a ton. I would say I was more of like a quality over quantity drinker. So I would brew 1 cup usually for the mornings and sometimes do 1 cup in the afternoon. But I was really struggling with this like fatigue issue where around basically like 11 o'clock and like 3 o'clock, I would just have these terrible fogginess, hunger pains, tiredness, like dizziness, just terrible. I'd have to go home. I'd have to leave the office. I
Wow.
would be kind of short with team members. They'd ask me questions and I would really give them good answers. Um, I'm like I said, I'm really in tune to what I eat. I'm really in tune to what I sleep, exercise. I couldn't figure it out, honestly. Um, so far to the point I reached out to my primary care doctor and said, "Hey, that I think I have a problem. Like, do I need like medication?" And I remember I sent that message to the doctor, and then I put the phone down. I was like, "Man, like, is there anything I'm missing?" And I was like, "What about caffeine? Like, I have had a cup of coffee for the last 8 years straight. What if I tried not having it? Um, cut out decaf. I still drink. I'm sorry. Cut out caffeine. I still drink decaf. Completely change the game. The hunger pains are gone. I can kind of, I might I might be a little bit hungry right now, but I'm still totally focused. Like it's not a problem. But yeah, decaf.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. That's that sounds like a terrible existence. I don't know. I think I see the benefits in it too. Like, because I've done caffeine fast, but dude, it's just like the best part of my day, man. And I think there's placebo involved at some point.
I still,
Um,
I still get the, I still get the satisfaction because I still use my Chemex. I look forward to every morning. I grind the
yeah.
beans every day. I have a fellow grinder, grind the beans, do the Chemex. I still get that first sip feeling. No, I don't
Mm,
quite get that little buzz that you feel from the caffeine, but
mm,
because I don't have the crash, it makes it worth it. I drank this iced Americano during this call. There's no caffeine in it, but
mm.
I enjoyed sipping it.
Yeah, that's that's true. And like too, like decaf coffee still has like sometimes up to 20% of the amount of caffeine too.
Yeah,
So
it can
there's
have trace amounts for sure.
yeah,
Uh,
you can titrate it. So
everything in moderation.
right, exactly. It's the healthy, mature answer. Um, but anyway, totally off topic again. So next up, driver or putter?
Driver has been a lifelong issue for me.
Ooh.
I struggle off the tee. I have a lot of swing speed. I can hit the ball quite far. As the ball goes further, it opens up the opportunity for more things to go wrong. Okay,
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
you see the 75-year-old guy at the club who hits it right down the middle. That guy doesn't miss, right? But when
Yeah.
you start get some club head speed going, a lot can go wrong. So I've been fighting it recently, trying to keep the ball in play. Um, Putter's pretty steady. I actually putted really good last night. I made some great putts. Something unique in my putting is that from 15 feet and in, I look at the hole
Hmm.
when I'm putting. I don't look at the ball.
Yeah. Hmm.
I saw
That was a
Speed doing it a
drill.
few years back, and I kind of started doing it, and it's worked really well for me.
Nice. Yeah, that's what my dad does. But I
Yeah.
mean, you literally just described me and my dad. Like, um, I'll outdrive him. Like I was even in high school, I was always hitting because I'm 6'5". Like I would hit the ball hit the ball pretty far,
Yeah.
and dad would always beat me.
Yeah.
I'd be 100 yards ahead of him in the fairway, and he was like, and he'd just walk by me and smile. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I hate you. But yeah, that's the game, and that's another part of like the humbling part of it we're talking about too. But cool putter. Okay, so morning workouts or evening workouts?
Evening for me. I'm definitely a morning person. So the way I look at it is I love getting up early. Try to be up around like 5:30 most days is kind of my go-to wake up time. I used to work out in the mornings because I'm a morning person. But what I realized is that when I would get up and go to the gym, all I'd be thinking about is work. Like I'm ready to go. I know that to-do list is made. I'm kind of like a bull in a pen. I'm just waiting to get let out.
Yeah.
So what I realized was I'm working out, but my head's in a different place. I'm like
Yeah.
ready to get done with the workout so that I can get started with work. Whereas I
Yeah.
flipped it, and now I wake up. I usually do a green drink in the morning, and I'll just dive right in. And I try to get the hardest, most cognitively intense work done first because I have the most amount of energy at that time. Pretty
Yeah.
much from the time I wake up to 3 o'clock, I'm losing energy kind of the whole day. So I pretty much am out of energy by 3 or 4 o'clock, and I can change clothes, go to the gym, and it completely kind of unwinds my brain. And I actually get re-energized, and I'm kind of good to go again for evening activities.
Yeah. So what is okay? I know this was supposed to be like a super like rapid fire game, and we stopped on every single one. But so like unpacking that, like, a, what's the hardest thing for you right now? So what's the first thing in the morning look like for you when you're what do you prioritize that time for? And
Uh,
B, like, go ahead. No, go
where
ahead.
you go?
Go ahead. So I was just gonna say like B, like I totally relate. So I'm a morning. I'm trying to be a morning person too, and like I'm always like, okay, I have to get the workout out of the way so that I can get back to work, and it's like that constant dialogue, and I sometimes will even end up like cutting it short or so. I see the value in that for sure, but it's like I've always gone up and done some sort of workout, so it's like I'm worried about like how I would feel. I like feel lazy or something if I didn't do it. But
Sure.
I think it's something some self work. But what does that first task for you in the morning look like?
So I'm pretty structured, and so based on the day of the week, I've kind of got my weeks like roughly mapped out. So Mondays, I'm always looking at um, launch kit and my content for the week, what marketing things need to go out this week, and where does that stand. So getting topics selected for the week, and then looking at last week's analytics. We close out analytics Sunday night, so Monday I basically have a fresh batch of data to see how things went. So I'm really looking at the week ahead to see what content is going out that week. Tuesdays is a
Okay.
finance day, so I'm always looking at last week's financials, what happened. I'm looking at basically transactions, revenue, P&L statements. Uh, so it's finance stuff. Wednesdays, kind of a floater day. I am here in the office, so it's a lot of meetings, just conversations, seeing how things are going in the week. Thursdays is a big content day for me. So usually what I'm doing in the morning is either writing. A lot of my videos start out, I'll write out scripts or frameworks or outlines of what I want to do. I can think really clearly in the morning, so I'm not getting interrupted with anything. So a lot of times it's writing out YouTube videos or content that I want to create that day. And then Friday is another meeting day. So it's kind of answering questions, having conversations, checking in to make sure I can do basically, I want to make sure that I'm always there for my team, and that anytime they have questions for me, I want to be able to fully focus and be present for them.
Yeah, I love that. So I can even see like unpacking that from the amount you focus on content. I imagine the ROI is there just from a marketing perspective.
Mhm.
Because I know what a it's not normal like marketing behavior. Like usually, if someone thinks like, okay, I got to market my business, I got to get a Rolodex, go through the chamber directory, and start making cold calls or something like that.
Yeah.
But for you, it's like you see the ROI and like the
Right.
creative part of it and telling your story and people getting this, creating this like community around what you're building, and it also has the marketing impacts from it too. So that's
Certainly.
awesome. Next up, Instagram or LinkedIn?
You know, I certainly use Instagram more. I wish I enjoyed LinkedIn. One of my favorite things is to hop on social media and see what people are working on. Like I want to know what you're up to. I
Yeah,
care more about what you're building than how many drinks you had last night at the bar.
yeah,
Um, so I would like to like LinkedIn, but I don't love the algorithm. I don't love how it works. I understand how it works, and I understand that it's trying to show me like some post that you liked. I get what it's trying to do, but I just
hmm,
don't enjoy consuming the content on my feed. So it makes me not use it as much. I end up hopping on Instagram, and I'm kind of particular about who I follow and who I engage with to
yeah.
really try to curate that feed to be healthy content that I enjoy keeping up with.
Yeah, yes. So Instagram is like way more visually stimulating,
Yeah.
and for me that was like difficult because I'll waste time on there. But for
Mhm.
me, like LinkedIn, I was like, okay, this is like I my default when I go to LinkedIn is to like comment and interact, and
Yeah.
that's just like what I've trained myself to do because I always did it on desktop.
Yeah.
Um, and then when I get into Instagram, it's just like, and even I paid $80 for this thing called Insist, which is like a desktop Instagram. It's supposed to be the
Yeah.
most robust one because there's always, if you use it on desktop, you can't do stories, you can't do certain tagging, you can't do DMs as well. So there's like certain things, like the small things that I know they're doing on purpose, so they get you to
Yeah.
download it on your phone.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, dude, it's just Instagram. I just find myself I just waste time on there, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of leaning into like people say like you should spend time on the platforms that you're actually excited to be on.
Yeah.
So I think kind of having that as a decision because you also want to find that balance to like where your audience is and stuff. So um, there's values to date. There's values to both. So next one, co-working date or golf date.
Golf. I think golf is
Correct.
whether you're on a date or with friends, like being on the golf course is one of the best ways to like truly chop it up and like get to know each other. The fact that you are going to be kind of on this journey, either 2 or 4 hours, where
Hmm.
it's just you and one other person or two other people, three other people, whatever. But like you start on hole one, like you're on this little journey together, like you're fully in the moment. You're not like at the bar trying to find other people, or it's not like you're just doing this thing together and you get to have deep conversations over the 2 or 4 hour period. So golf
Yeah.
date.
Yep. The conversation. I think that's what sets golf apart from every other sport is like you can still do it and connect and build relationships, and
Yeah.
that's why it works so well with business. But next, Tesla or Porsche?
Why'd you pick
What
those
would you
two?
pick? So I know you drive a Tesla,
Yeah.
but I see a little because I mean Porsches is like electric vehicles. They're killing it. I know they have.
Taycan.
And there's this one Porsche that because I look up and I start to see these Teslas, I see these Porsches, and it's just that once you notice them, once you want one, they start to like find their way into like you see
Yeah.
them every day. So
Yeah.
I kind of had an inkling that you might like Porsches, and I think that might
Yeah.
be one of your. That was my guess to what your dream car was. So I
Yeah.
wanted to know which one.
Yeah. No, you nailed it. That's funny you asked that.
Hmm.
I'm going to say both, and here's the answer why. I think the Tesla is, from a purely utility standpoint, it's the best car. Functionality, like daily driver wise, for 90% of your driving, as long as you're basically making it home every night and charging it, like it's the best car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the opportunity to drive a 911 Turbo S last year, the year before, and it was an absolute blast. And that car definitely has my heart.
Yeah, that's what, dude. Like I'll have these moments too where like I kind of have to treat myself like a child. So if it's like late, it's like okay, I don't want to send these emails, I don't want to schedule this content. I'm just like, okay, Model S, baby, here we go. So
Yeah,
yeah, but no, I love Teslas, and that's
yeah,
I want one day. So
it's a great daily
um
drive. I've loved it.
yeah, I kind of had that intuition like because I have the same preferences. So Hoka or On shoes?
On, um,
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
I run in a pair of On Cloud Monsters. That's my go-to.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Well, what's your take on Hokas though?
I've never owned a pair. Very
Okay.
positive, I would say. Great shoe. They have some really good commercials that I've seen too that I've really enjoyed recently.
Hmm.
You've seen the one where it's like the people and they're like kind of like that's all a bunch of different types of runners and they're like up in the air. It's a great commercial.
Yeah.
I don't know what you'd call on YouTube, but it was a good campaign that they did. Good
Okay. Yeah.
music too. So
Yeah.
respect.
See, I can tell. It's like you like watching ads. I love watching ads too. It's like for the same
Yeah,
reason. But
yeah.
khakis or cargos?
Khakis. I
Yeah.
don't think I own any
Um,
cargo pants.
no. Also, I'd give you easy ones. Zoom or Google Meet?
Google Meet. We used to use Zoom. We pretty much use Google Workspace for everything, though. So the way that Google Meet's integrated is just a no-brainer. One of the biggest struggles with when you use Zoom and Google Calendar, um, Google Calendar defaults to always putting that blue button that says "Join with Meet," even if there's
Yeah.
a Zoom invite right below it.
Right.
We'd have clients that like the Zoom invite was there, but they just see the big blue button and they click it, and then they sit in the Google Meet lobby and wonder why you're not
Yeah.
there. So we fully,
It's like you didn't come.
we fully switched over to Google Meet about a year ago, and I've loved it.
Okay, good. Yeah, my problem with Zoom was that it's like it's fine, it's for but it was like if you don't have the paid version, it caps at 30 minutes. And I would
Yeah.
always go over that. So it's like, you have 5 minutes remaining, and I'm like, oh my god, gotta make a new link. But last one was last one, work from home or in office.
Both. Depends on the type of work you're doing. So I'm a big believer that the type of work you're doing should determine the environment you're in. So if we need to collaborate and like review a design or spitball ideas or talk about content topics, we should do it in person. We should sit around, sticky notes, whiteboard, ClickUp, Miro, that type of vibe. If we need to design web pages or edit a video or make a design that we have a direction on, you should be uninterrupted. For you, whether that's at home, coffee shop, headphones, the type of work you're doing should determine the environment you do it in.
Nice, cool. Yeah, that is no context with a lot of context that ended up happening.
That's a fun game. I like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good usual way to end off. But I'd love to end on like a positive note. So, what's one thing that you're excited about? What are you excited to get up for in the morning? Whether it's a project or maybe a new like nerdy software you're trying out. What's something that's got you excited?
I think at the end of the day, the thing that brings me real fulfillment is seeing the impact that this business gets to have on the community that we're in. I think about how we've got 70 something active clients with us that we make a real difference for them, whether it be through maintaining the website, creating social media. It all goes back to that point of we share their story, and we make a real difference for them. To wake up and know that we've got 70 plus businesses, families, people counting on us to help them succeed brings a lot of fulfillment. I'm blessed to have 5 full-time team members here at LaunchKit that I genuinely enjoy hanging out with, spending time with. I believe in them, and I believe that I work for them. I want to be here to help them in any way possible, and this place would be nothing without them. So I'm incredibly thankful to people that we've got to surround this business with.
Yeah, love that, man. Yeah, man, I appreciate dude, super value your time. So I really appreciate you letting me keep you longer than I bargained for. But
Yeah.
this is like for me, this gave me a lot of energy. So I really appreciate you rubbing that off on me. So
Awesome. I really appreciate how organized and prepared you were for this. You asked really great questions. You knew background stories, and I think that's a sign of a great podcast host. And I'm excited to see you keep this going.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm going to out myself, but I canceled the first one. So I was really about that, but I'm glad I gave you that impression that I had my stuff together.
You nailed it. This has been fun.
Thank you, man. Yeah. Where can people go find out about you?
The 6 platforms: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn. LaunchKit's on Google. Not really personally on Google. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn.